Canto 18, Circle 8, Malabolga, the fraudulent and malicious. Bolgia 1, the panderers and seducers. Bolgia 2, the flatterers. There is in hell a vast and sloping ground called Malabolga, a lost place of stone as black as the great cliff that seals it round. Precisely in the center of that space there yawns a well extremely wide and deep. I shall discuss it in its proper place. The border that remains between the well pit and the great cliff forms an enormous circle, and 10 descending troughs are cut in it, offering a general prospect like the ground that lies around one of those ancient castles whose walls are girded many times around by concentric moats. And just as, from the portal, the castle's bridges run from moat to the last bank, so from the great rock wall across the embankments and the ditches, high and narrow cliffs run to the central well, which cuts and gathers them like radii. Here, shaken from the back of Geryon, we found ourselves. My guide kept to the left and I walked after him. So we moved on. Below, on my right, and filling the first ditch along both banks, new souls in pain appeared, new torments, and new devils black as pitch. All of these sinners were naked. On our side of the middle they walked toward us, on the other, in our direction, but with swifter stride. Just so the Romans, because of the great throng in the year of the Jubilee, divide the bridge in order that the crowds may pass along, so that all face the castle as they go on one side toward St. Peter's, while on the other all move along facing toward Mount Giordano. And everywhere along that hideous track I saw horned demons with enormous lashes move through those souls, scourging them on the back. Ah, how the stragglers of that long route stirred their legs quick march at the first crack of the lash. Certainly no one waited for a second or a third. As we went on, one face in that procession caught my eye, and I said, "That sinner there, it is certainly not the first time I've seen that one." I stopped, therefore, to study him, and my guide, out of his kindness, waited, and even allowed me to walk back a few steps at the sinner's side. And that flayed spirit, seeing me turn around, thought to hide his face, but I called to him, "You there that walk along with your eyes on the ground, if those are not false features, then I know you as Venedico Caccianemico of Bologna. What brings you here among this pretty crew?" And he replied, "I speak unwillingly, but something in your living voice, in which I hear the world again, stirs and compels me. It was I who brought the fair Gisola round to serve the will and lust of the Marquis, however sordid that old tale may sound. There are many more from Bologna who weep away eternity in this ditch. We fill it so there are not as many tongues that are taught to say Sipa and all the land that lies between the Reno and the Saveno, as you must know from the many tales of our avarice and spleen." And as he spoke, one of those lashes fell across his back, and a demon cried, "Move on, you pimp, there are no women here to sell." Turning away then, I rejoined my guide. We came in a few steps to a raised bridge that made a passage to the other side. This we climbed easily, and turning right along the jagged crest, we left behind the eternal circling of those souls in flight. And when we reached the part at which the stone was tunneled for the passage of the scourged, my guide said, "Stop a minute and look down on these other misbegotten wraiths of sin. You have not seen their faces, for they moved in the same direction we were headed in." So from that bridge we looked down on the throng that hurried towards us on the other side. Here, too, the whiplash hurried them along. And the good master, studying that train, said, "Look there at that great soul that approaches, and seems to shed no tears for all his pain. What kingliness moves with him even in hell! It is Jason, who by courage and good advice made off with the Colchian ram. Later it fell that he passed Lemnos, where the women of wrath, enraged by Venus's curse that drove their lovers out of their arms, put all their males to death. There, with his honeyed tongue and his dishonest lover's wiles, he gulled Hypsipyle, who, in the slaughter, had gulled all the rest. And there he left her, pregnant and forsaken. Such guilt condemns him to such punishment, and also for Medea is vengeance taken. All seducers march here to the whip, and let us say no more about this valley and those it closes in its stony grip. We had already come to where the walk crosses the second bank, from which it lifts another arch, spanning from rock to rock. Here we heard people whine in the next chasm, and knock and thump themselves with open palms, and blubber through their snouts as if in a spasm. Steaming from that pit, a vapor rose over the banks, crusting them with a slime that sickened my eyes and hammered at my nose. That chasm sinks so deep we could not sight its bottom anywhere until we climbed along the rock arch to its greatest height. Once there, I peered down, and I saw long lines of people in a river of excrement that seemed the overflow of the world's latrines. I saw among the felons of that pit one wraith who might or might not have been tonsured. One could not tell, he was so smeared with shit. He bellowed, "You there, why do you stare at me more than at all the others in this stew?" And I to him, "Because if memory serves me, I knew you when your hair was dry. You are Alessio Interminelli de Luca. That's why I pick you from this filthy fry." And he then, beating himself on his clown's head, "Down to this have the flatteries I sold, the living sunk me here among the dead." And my guide prompted then, "Lean forward a bit and look beyond him. There, do you see that one scratching herself with dungy nails, the strumpet who fidgets to her feet, then to a crouch? It is the whore Thais, who told her lover when he sent to ask her, 'Do you thank me much?' Much? Nay, past all believing. And with this, let us turn from the sight of this abyss."